And I'm Darren.
Of the Rad Adventures Network.
Welcome to Convention Correspondents.
We're headed to the Midwest today with our friend Randy Andrews of the podcast Soundtrack Alley and the Gen 13 Files.
Randy is taking us to O Comic-Con and giving us lots of information about the great guests, cosplay, and panels at the event.
We'll be right back with Randy's report right after this promo for another podcast you may enjoy.
Hello. Do you enjoy movie scores? Do you like science fiction? Do you like fantasy? And do you like movies?
Everything's under control. Situation normal.
What happened?
Had a slight weapons malfunction, but everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
Well, I have a podcast for you. Soundtrack Alley. It's a podcast where I take you on a journey through the time of my childhood and beyond to give you a glimpse into the world of movies, science fiction, fantasy, and other films that touch me on a personal level. You'll also enjoy interviews from film composers from famous movies from the past or even current times. Enjoy the interaction I have with guests on my show every so often, and check out other shows that share and guest spots. So sit back, relax, and let the soundtrack world wash over you, and check out Soundtrack Alley. You'll love it. Hello, I am Randy Andrews. This report comes from O Comic-Con in Council Bluffs, Iowa. It's essentially a pop culture and media expo. The reason it's called O Comic-Con is because of the Omaha metro area. There was a great deal of media guests at the con. Included were people like Daniel Logan, who played young Boba Fett from the Attack of the Clones in the Star Wars series, Ming Chen from the show Comic Book Men, Kathy Garver from the TV show All in the Family, and then years ago she was in The Ten Commandments. She's also a talented voice artist as well. Also Barbara Goodson, who's most notably the voice actress for the Power Rangers villain Rita Repulsa, as well as the classic Jim Henson TV series Fraggle Rock as the voice of Red. Alan Maroka and Roscoe Orman from Sesame Street were there, and Julian Richings from Supernatural and Orphan Black, but also had many other acting roles in over 100 film and television projects. Some of the comic creators featured were the amazingly talented Kay Lynn Smith, who does the webcomic Plume, but also it's in a full-scale story of 3 different trades, and soon the Omnibus will be coming out. She has a sort of gritty Disney style to her art, and I was privileged to get not only 1, but 3 different commissions from her. She was super amazing and super awesome. I think everyone needs to follow her and check out her most current work that she's doing with the release of Afterglow just after it got funded on Kickstarter. Just say that Plume is like a Western with a magical element to it, and I think everyone would enjoy it. Also, as a guest this year, we had Jenna Ayub, known for the artwork on Adventure Time, The Adventures of Gumball, and the collaboration on Lumberjanes as well as Gotham Academy. She's also published an amazing short story called Ghost. Everyone also needs to check out her work as well. Among some of the regulars that come back every single year for O Comic Con were Phil Hester, artist and writer. His works include Shipwreck, Thrilling Adventure Hour, Mythic, Green Arrow, among others, as well as the most recent, which is Batman Beyond. Also joining the crew were Andy Parks and Eric Gapster. Andy Parks is known for Green Arrow mainly, but has been found doing inking work on all kinds of different projects along with Phil Hester. And then Eric Gapster has done work with Phil Hester on Thrilling Adventure Hour, as well as Shipwreck, and his work can be found through Aftershock Comics with Animosity. Another fan favorite was Ali Cantarella, who does work with coffee, tea, and wine to create amazing art, and she's known for her work on Hasty Pastry and many other colorful projects. And another great guest was Bob Hall, who has worked prolifically on Marvel and DC projects. He runs his own theater company in Lincoln, Nebraska, as well as teaching art classes. He's a great artist, and everyone really should check him out. There were so many other artists and creators at the convention, and the cosplay this year was absolutely amazing. There was even an Iron Giant, as well as a giant Transformer that walked around. And for wrestling fans, there was wrestling going on throughout the whole convention. Then, in the podcast arcade area, which is where all the podcasters were set up, such ones as The Weekly Geekly, Four Men in a Tub, The Worst Comic Podcast Ever, Yay! Daydream Instruction Manual, Make Eternia Great Again, Underground Inc., Sexy Nerd Science, and Project Nerd were among those podcasters. Also, the panels this year were top-notch. I only sat in on 3 of them, but one was with Bob Hall about comic storytelling. And it was really interesting to know, when you're drawing for a comic character or something, you want to know what their backstory is. You want to know where they're coming from, what they're doing, and it was really informative and enjoyable. Another was with Kaylin Smith and Jenna Ayub and Russell Nolte on web comics and web presence, and they were really great. And then lastly, the one that I got to sit in on was Ali Cantarella, Jenny Ayub, and Kaylin Smith on creating a business in comics, and that was really interesting too. All of them were greatly informative and enjoyable and a lot of fun. But that isn't all. I myself had a panel on Saturday this year. It was called Soundtrack's Role in Nerdy Movies. I was with a co-host, Joshua Howell, who does the book series The Fierce Saga. We discussed the difference between a soundtrack and score on a film. We showed some clips from films, shared trivia, and gave away close to 15 vinyl records. And there were close to 60 or so people in the room, and it really surprised me, as well as my wife actually showed up. It was great. I bought a lot of swag, such as some comics, and even got a bag from a good friend, Greg Smith, who does the junior guidebook Against the Apocalypse, not to be confused with the movie that had come out shortly after it was released. Overall, I had a great time and made some great friends, who I hope to keep in touch with. If you so desire, check out my panel video on YouTube under the title Soundtrack's Role in Nerdy Movies. Also check out my podcast, Soundtrack Alley. This is Randy Andrews from Council Bluffs, Iowa, signing off. Have a good day, and keep going to conventions. The Gen 13 Files, a monthly podcast hosted by Randy Andrews. Each month, I'll take you on a journey of reviewing Gen 13 the comic from 1994 clear through 2003. What is Gen 13? Glad you asked. It's a comic that started out produced by Image Comics and is morphed from Wildstorm clear to DC. Who is Gen 13? We have Caitlin Fairchild, Roxy Freefall,
Wow.
Grunge Chang, Sarah Rainmaker, and Bobby Lane. These superhero teens encounter aliens, evil corporations, vicious robots, and strange travels. They've also encountered characters from Marvel and DC. This is a fan podcast, and I love to talk about J. Scott Campbell and Jim Lee. I'll include comments, art references, and talking about my favorite characters from Gen 13, specifically Caitlin Fairchild. I hope you enjoy the ride and keep powered.
We want to thank Randy for that terrific report, and a big congratulations to Randy on the success of his panel. We've watched it on YouTube and definitely encourage everyone else to check it out.
We also want to encourage everyone to try Randy's podcasts, including the Gen 13 Files and Soundtrack Alley, where we've been lucky to be guests to talk about great movies like Jason and the Argonauts and my favorite, The Princess Bride.
We also liked hearing that Andy Parks was at O-Comic-Con. We were lucky to meet him at DragonCon a couple of years ago, where we got an original commission of the Green Hornet from that excellent series that he worked on.
And we loved hearing the shout out for our friends Cullen, Jerry, and John of the Worst Comic Podcast Ever. They're great guys, and it was thanks to them that we sought out Andy Parks at DragonCon.
Thank you again for your report, Randy.
Before we go, we want to provide our contact information.
You can write us directly at radadventuresnetwork@gmail.com or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram under the name Rad Adventures Network.
That's RAD, R-A-D, which is short for Ruth and Darren.
You can listen to the show through iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play.
You can even find the show on YouTube under Rad Adventures Network.
And you can always visit radadventuresnetwork.com, where you'll find all of the episodes of all of our podcasts, including Trekker Talk, Warlord Worlds, and Xenozoic Xenophiles, as well as Sensational Sleuths, where we talk about favorite mysteries, and Fantastic Fantasies, where we discuss favorite fantasy adventures.
If you like the show, please consider leaving a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play. While you won't find a specific place to review Convention Correspondents, we hope you'll leave a review under Rad Adventures Network. Every review helps the podcast be more likely to be discovered.
And on YouTube, we hope you'll subscribe to the channel and give us some likes on the videos.
Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll come back next time for another new episode of Convention Correspondence.
Rad Adventures Network is a proud member of the Comics Podcast Network. For more information, please visit comicspodcast.com. The theme music is Typewriter Symphonic and is licensed from pod5.com. We make no money from this podcast and no copyright infringement is intended.